Let's talk about this freaking stupid ass student at the University of Oklahoma who wrote a very bad essay, objectively a very bad essay. And as a result of getting a 0, which honestly should have gotten negative points, the trans assistant teacher, so not even a full-time professor, the trans professor who gave the score and provided notes that were extremely fair, that professor has been put on leave, and the student is now making the media rounds and, of course, finding a way to grift off of it. The University of Oklahoma has placed a trans graduate instructor on administrative leave after the student received a 0 on a psychology assignment that described transgender people as demonic and asserted that gender roles are biblically ordained, while still not quoting the Bible, FYI. The dispute has quickly escalated into a statewide political flashpoint. The controversy began when junior Samantha Fulnecky submitted a 650-word reaction paper for a course on how social expectations shape gender. Instead of addressing the assignment's questions using data, her essay claims society is pushing lies about gender, warned that eliminating strict gender roles would be harmful, and described transgender identities as demonic. Yet here's the thing. You can't just write a paper where you're supposed to be backing up your statements with cited sources, with quotes, with facts, etc. You can't just treat it like you would Twitter. You know, when you go on Twitter and you say something like transgender is demonic, you cannot say that in an academic setting and expect that you're not going to be failed. You should be failed for that because you're a bad student. You're not doing things as you should, being in a classroom in an academic setting, and you should not be you should not be rewarded for it. And it's to nobody's. It's like nobody wins. The teacher doesn't win. The student doesn't win when you allow that kind of nonsense to pass. Like I saw some people on Twitter who were like, you know what? This trans professor should not have taken the bait, should have just given this student a C average, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, why? This professor was doing their job. This professor was evaluating this essay on, the way it should have been evaluated, and it failed. This essay thoroughly failed what it should, what it should have done. And no, I don't think that the professor should have refused to take the bait and given this student a score that they didn't deserve for writing a fucking awful essay. The professor was doing their job. And that's what I mean by like students, professors, academia, society. No one wins from a standpoint of like teaching and learning when we just allow this shit to fly. Now, as far as winning in the world of like culture war, in the world of the university capitulating to all of the right-wing pressure, yes, this student has won. Yes. The controversy began when Fulnecky submitted this paper. Screenshots of the essay and the instructor's comments were posted by Turning Point USA on Thanksgiving. Right-wing media networks quickly boosted it. Of course they did. Okay, so if you haven't seen, let me show you some examples, okay? This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society. First of all, What article? What are you referencing? You can't assume that the person reading your essay knows what you're talking about. That's like, you do not start off by saying this article was very thought-provoking. I mean, look, I'm not going to waste the time going through note by note why this essay is pure ass, but just from the very first line, what article? This article? What's this article? The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose. This sounds like somebody who's in elementary school. This sounds like somebody who is 5 years old. God is very intentional with what he makes. I believe trying to change that would do more harm. Gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. Also, the period outside of the quotation marks. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. The same goes for men. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. It's frustrating to me when I read articles like this. Once again, what's the article? Can we get a summation of it? And discussion posts from my classmates of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion so they do not step on people's toes. I think that is a cowardly and insincere way to live. It's important to use the freedom of speech we have been given in this country. I personally believe that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental, as it pulls us farther from God's original plan for humans. It is perfectly normal for kids to follow gender stereotypes because that is how God made us. The reason so many girls want to feel womanly and care for others in a motherly way is not because they feel pressured to fit into societal norms. It's because God created and chose them to reflect his beauty and his compassion in that way. Okay, so that's just a little taste. It's obviously horrible. It's horribly reasoned, horribly written. There's no citations. There's no even quotes from the Bible. And here is the response. Here is the response from the professor, and it is objectively reasonable and correct. She's a fake ass Christian because even real bigoted Christians have a Bible verse ready to spew their shit. That's the thing. I think she is truly such a fucking dumbass that she can't even quote the Bible. She can't even quote the Bible in her terrible essay about how we should have gender roles and gender expectations because God. Okay, so here's the comments. Please note that I'm not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I'm deducting points for you posting. So right there, the professor's like, look, this isn't about your beliefs. This is because you're a shit writer. This is because you didn't do what the assignment required. You posted a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and is at times offensive. While you are entitled to your own personal beliefs, there's an appropriate time or place to implement them in your reflections. I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc., is not best practice. You argue that abiding by normative gender roles is beneficial. It's perfectly fine to believe this. But to then say that everyone should act the same while also saying that people aren't pressured into gendered expectations is contradictory. Read between the lines. You are a dumbass. especially since your arguments reflect a religious pressure to act in gender stereotypical ways. You can say that strict gender norms don't create gender stereotypes, but that isn't true by definition of what a stereotype is. Please note that acknowledging gender stereotypes does not immediately denote a negative connotation, a nuance this article discusses, which once again, this dumbass did not even did not in her essay. I don't even want to call it an essay. It's just what it is tweets, right? It's just fucking tweets. Did not at all cite the article and then provide a rebuttal to the article backed up by whatever sources they are citing, right? Whatever they're using. Even when it's an opinion paper. Yes. Even when it's an opinion paper, this is, you can't believe that this is at the collegiate level. Like, you cannot believe this is a junior in college. This is somebody who's an adult in an academic setting that is not sixth grade. Additionally, to call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minoritized population. You are entitled to your own beliefs, but this isn't a vague narrative of society pushes lies, but instead the result of countless years developing psychological and scientific evidence for these claims and directly interacting with the communities involved. You may personally disagree with this, but that doesn't change the fact that every major psychological... So do you see how in the professor's comments, the professor is doing what she is essentially saying, and not even just she's saying, but what this student should have done, where not that I think having the belief that trans people aren't demonic versus having the belief that trans people are demonic is at all comparable. I don't believe that. But what this professor is doing is clearly the professor has their beliefs here, but they are also backing it up. That's why they mention every major psychological, medical, pediatric, and psychiatric association in the United States acknowledges that biologically and psychologically, sex and gender is neither binary nor fixed. I implore you, apply some more perspective and empathy in your work. If you personally disagree with the findings, then by all means, share your criticisms, but make sure to do so in a way that's appropriate and using the methodology of empirical psychology as aligned with the learning goals in this class. If you have any additional questions or concerns about this or would like some additional educational resources, I would be happy to discuss this further and provide you with them. Yeah, so not only did the professor state this, but clearly demonstrated in their comments that they didn't give that score because of the student's personal beliefs. They gave that score because the student wrote an embarrassingly bad essay. This girl's a dumbass. And you know what? This is a really nice way of being like, hey, you're a dumb bitch, okay? Because if it's me, I'm going, hey, Fulnecky, or whatever the hell your name is, you're a stupid bitch. And this professor was very gracious. I mean, obviously that's obviously the professor is doing the professor was doing her job. Okay. The professor was doing her job. But me as a Twitch streamer, I'm going to make this a lot simpler. Fulnecky, you are a dumbass. That's your problem. And you can't even remotely back up your dumbassery. And so I know that you are going on Fox News. I know that you're, going into the welcoming arms of Riley Gaines, and you'll probably be her protege, and then you'll go work for your MAGA mom. But I need you to know that no matter what, no matter how many people are calling you a hero, who are saying that you were wronged, that you're a victim of crazy wokeness, you're stupid, and that's not going to change. That you are so embarrassingly stupid, and I actually do hope that you can free yourself from this cage of idiocy because it is looking on the outside. Girl, I will tell you, looking on the outside, I would be so ashamed. I would be ashamed if I were you. Okay. Now, as I said yesterday when I was briefly talking about this, and in response to chatter saying this might be a publicity stunt and also get grounds to sue, I can see this being something that the student knew that they would be able to turn this to their advantage because of our current climate, right? Now, do I think that means the student is secretly brilliant? No, I don't. Do I think that this student actually could have written a much better essay? No, I don't. I think both things can be true. I think this student could have no business being in a college course, have no business writing any essay whatsoever, but I can also believe that this student is well aware, considering who her mother is, that she can cry victim for her beliefs and emerge triumphant. I mean, man, could she? This is maybe one of the rare instances that I'm like, maybe should have at least used a little AI. Oh, and then here's a second instructor. Megan Waldron independently reviewed the paper and agreed that it did not satisfy the assignment prompt or basic academic writing expectations. Here's the thing, folks. You don't have to be a professor to look at that essay and go, that's trash. This clip is the best way to sum up this whole thing.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response
that's what I'm saying.
Even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
That's what I'm saying.
I award you no
yes.
points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Where really the true victims at the end of the day, aside from the professor who was unfairly punished, it's fucking bullshit. The victims are those of us who have to be subjected to such idiocy, who have to read the drivel that came from Fulnecky. Those are who the real victims are. Here's Fulnecky on Fox News from today.
I'm saddened that they're offended by the truth of the gospel and the truth that I...
The truth of the gospel. Yeah. What is that truth of the gospel?
It saddens me to see that that offends them and upsets them the way it did. Jesus is always worth standing up for, and I just encourage those people that are dealing with something.
She talks exactly the way she writes, and
push back against that kind of behavior. I would rather have my integrity and give my true opinion and get a 0 on an assignment than have to lie about what I really believe.
Really? Because I actually think that you weren't okay with the 0 you got on your assignment, which is why what's happening is happening. You say that you would rather keep your integrity and get a 0. Okay, so you got a 0. You got a 0. So why did you file a complaint of religious discrimination?
Well, she gets a 100 because she knows why she believes what she believes. I'd prove that, Professor.
Actually, if I were the professor, I would have given her 100 because she believes what she believes. Wait a sec. Here she is. Here she is.
So Fulnecky tells me that after she brought up to the university what happened, they decided that that grade would not count against her. But it doesn't mean the conversation is over just yet.
I just did the assignment and turned it in.
Okay, I'm going to give her some advice. Aside from, hey, learn how to fucking write. Lay off the tanning, girl. Lay off the tanning. Just some advice from an old hag over here. Lay off the tanning.
And I talked about the Bible in it. That is, I view all of my opinions in the world through the Bible.
She says when she submitted an essay reacting to an article for her psychology class.
I was tennis as well. I think if you played high school tennis, not even just high school sports, but like specifically high school tennis, I think you get it.
She got a 0. The graduate instructor, who is transgender, was the one grading it. They called it offensive and said it lacked empirical evidence.
Robbed of athlete of the century. You know what, Madeline? So true. Athlete of the week, please. Please.
The Bible says that God created male and female, and anything that's not from God or glorifying to God is glorifying to the enemy.
Here are excerpts of the essay. She says, society pushing the lie of multiple genders is demonic and believes it's against God's will.
That's what I meant by that. The demonic thing is that I didn't mean for that to be offensive, but
yeah, that's what I meant by that. The demonic thing.
Would you have a problem having a transgender teacher?
I wouldn't. Not if they're able to separate their
Oh, wait, hold
kind
on.
of
Oh, wait, what?
beliefs and things from
Okay. No problem with a transgender professor as long as they're able to separate their beliefs. Girl, we caught her by the necky.
Then I don't, really care who my professors are.
She was supposed to be graded on whether there was an understanding of the article, whether it was a clear reaction, and whether the main ideas were organized in a coherent discussion. She got a 0 out of 25 points, claiming her religious freedom was violated. That instructor's been put on administrative leave. Fulnecky says she isn't sure whether she'll be seeking any legal action from this, but we asked an attorney what they thought if things do go in that direction.
It's above her
In the
necky.
end, I really do not see this lawsuit going anywhere, as there is no constitutional guarantee to an A in a class at a public university.
Yeah.
I did reach back out.
Yes, Blau is correct. Other Blau is correct. He's like, how could this be grounds for any type of lawsuit when you're not constitutionally protected against being a dumbass?